When you suspect that someone around you isn't totally real, you get a nagging feeling of unease. It may be a friend who celebrates your achievement but avoids eye contact when you share good news, or a colleague who showers you with compliments but their tone is odd. Envy and deceit are subtle. They rarely make a grand entrance. Instead, they infiltrate encounters camouflaged as support, hidden beneath words that appear kind but lack substance. The ancient Stoics recognized that the outside world is full of illusions, and that allowing dishonest and jealous people to influence them was one of the most serious threats to their inner serenity. Epictetus wisely stated, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." But how do you tell the difference between a genuine friend and someone who secretly resents you? How do you spot latent envy and dishonesty before they bind you in their web? This episode will improve your perception. We'll look at 10 key ways to recognize envy and falsehood in others so you can keep your peace, avoid toxic influences, and cultivate relationships based on honesty and respect. By the end of this episode, you'll be equipped to manage your social world with clarity and insight, just as the Stoics did. Let us begin. 1. Observe actions, not words. People can say all the right things, profess devotion, pledge support, and even express admiration, but words are cheap. In contrast, actions disclose the truth. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the significance of evaluating reality via actions rather than illusions. He once wrote, "Don't waste your time fighting over what a good guy should be." B1. This lesson goes beyond self-improvement and pertains to how we evaluate others. Consider someone who continually talks about kindness but is missing when it is most needed. Consider a colleague who boasts about teamwork yet seizes every chance to claim credit for the efforts of others. This is when the test of observation comes into play. Rather than focusing on what individuals say, observe what they consistently do. A truly supportive person's behavior matches their words. If someone calls you a buddy, they show up when it counts. They will never belittle you behind your back if they truly value you. In contrast, envious and deceitful people exhibit contradictions. They speak highly of integrity while acting dishonestly. Alternatively, they praise your accomplishments while secretly praying for your failure. Consider the historical character Julius Caesar. Throughout his climb to power, he was surrounded by senators and supposed supporters who promised devotion and unity. However, when the occasion presented itself, their behaviors revealed a different tale. Envy and ambition prompted them to betray him in the most devious manner conceivable. His collapse was precipitated not by his adversaries, but by those who purported to be his allies. This trend occurs in everyday life. Someone may be excited about your achievement, but do they truly support you when possibilities arise? Do they appreciate your accomplishments, or do they discreetly disparage them with backhanded compliments? Pay special attention when actions contradict words, since you will discover the truth. The Stoic response to such situations is straightforward. Observe without attachment. Do not make excuses for others' conduct. See things as they are, not as you want them to be. According to Seneca, the best indicator of a person's character is how they behave when they think no one is watching. Action. Step. Begin noticing patterns. Does this person keep their promises? Do their actions match their statements, or do they reveal an underlying falsehood? The more you rely on observation rather than assumption, the more obvious the truth becomes. And once you realize this, you can make better decisions about who merits a place in your life. 2. Evaluate their reaction to your success. Success has a way of revealing people's genuine emotions. How do those around you respond when you achieve something, whether it's a promotion, a personal milestone, or simply a moment of happiness? Are they truly celebrating with you, or do you see a change in their demeanor? Envy flourishes in silence, false grins, and congratulations that appear fake. The ancient Stoics knew that true character is revealed not in words, but in how people respond to the success of others. Consider this. You enthusiastically communicate good news with a friend. Instead of matching your enthusiasm, they pause, fake a smile, and abruptly shift the topic. Or perhaps they answer with a disparaging comment. Well, that must be lovely. Some of us have to work harder for things like that. These are subtle symptoms of animosity, indications that your achievement has aroused something uncomfortable in them. A loyal friend, a person of virtue, rejoices in your triumphs without feeling diminished by them. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, observed, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Envy arises from a sense of scarcity. Those who are comfortable with themselves do not perceive your success as a danger, but as an inspiration. Insecure people, those who assess their worth in relation to others, may find it difficult to truly enjoy your accomplishments. You'll frequently encounter envious folks attempting to minimize your accomplishment. They may argue it was merely luck, or that anyone could have done it. They could even appear supportive in public while speaking poorly about you behind your back. In severe circumstances, they may try to sabotage you by quietly discouraging you from aiming higher, making you doubt yourself, or claiming credit for your efforts. Consider Napoleon Bonaparte, who ascended from obscurity to prominence, only to be surrounded by advisors and generals who both respected and despised him. Many of them, while initially faithful, eventually turned against him, not because of his mistakes, but because of his accomplishments. History has seen many famous people betrayed by those who couldn't stand their success. So, how can you avoid concealed envy? Pay attention to uniformity. A good supporter will encourage you in both your troubles and your victories. They will not abandon you when you are doing well, and they will not hesitate to cheer you on without hesitation. Someone who appears comfortable when you are suffering, but becomes aloof when you triumph, reveals their actual nature. Action step. Take note the next time you convey good news. Take note of the reactions you receive. Who really celebrates with you? Who discreetly downplays your accomplishment? Who shifts the subject or provides a tepid response? Most importantly, who continues to support you whether you are successful or struggling? 3. See how they treat those who cannot benefit them. The way a person treats those who have nothing to offer reveals the most about their genuine nature. It is simple to be polite, respectful, and attentive when there is something to gain. However, what happens when the other party has no rank, influence, or incentive? That's when deception and envy are most obvious. The Stoics generally emphasized the significance of virtue over external position. Marcus Aurelius, a powerful Roman emperor, grasped this well. Despite leading an empire, he reminded himself every day that everyone, regardless of status or riches, deserved to be treated with decency. He stated in his meditations that a person's worth is measured by the goodness of their character, not by their station in life. However, not everyone follows this principle. Think about the people around you. Do they treat their employer or a wealthy friend with warmth and kindness, but disregard service workers, subordinates, or individuals they consider unimportant? Do they respect individuals when there is an audience, yet act indifferently when no one is present? This behavior is a red indicator, indicating that their benevolence is transactional rather than genuine. History is littered with figures whose reputations were founded on power and influence, only to be shown as empty once they were removed from their privileged positions. The French Revolution, for example, exposed aristocrats who had spent their careers accumulating fortune while ignoring the plight of the lower class. When the tides turned, their pals abandoned them, demonstrating that their relationships were based on status rather than sincerity. Envious and deceptive people frequently follow this path. They may flatter people above them while disregarding or mistreating those they consider insignificant. Such behavior is more than just arrogance. It is evidence of an unstable, envious personality. They perceive relationships as tools rather than actual connections. A person of integrity, on the other hand, respects everyone, regardless of their ability to provide something in exchange. They do not base their benevolence on selfish gain. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born into slavery and went on to become a famous teacher, understood this. He emphasized that our character is shown by how we act in the absence of reward, consequence, or expectation. So here's a simple but effective test. Observe how people treat waitstaff, janitors, receptionists, and strangers. Do they acknowledge them? Do they treat them kindly, or do they dismiss them as if they don't exist? Actionable step. Develop the ability to observe characters. Observe how someone's conduct alters based on who they are speaking with. Someone who just offers respect when it benefits them is not actually kind. They are opportunistic. And if they are willing to be wrong in tiny things, they are likely to be wrong in larger subjects as well. Finally, how a person treats those with nothing to offer determines their true character, not how they treat peers or superiors. As Seneca stated, virtue is not proven in easy circumstances, but in difficult ones. Pay attention, and you'll notice who is actually decent and who is just acting. 4. Distinguish between praise and flattery. There is a delicate line between sincere praise and manipulative flattery, and recognizing the difference might help you avoid envious and deceptive people. True praise inspires, motivates, and shows honesty. Flattery, on the other hand, is exaggerated, untrue, and frequently conceals an ulterior agenda. The Stoics recognized that vanity is a weakness that may be exploited. Seneca warned against individuals who use flattery to manipulate. He who praises you more than he should has in mind either to deceive you or to take advantage of you. In other words, be wary of people who frequently lavish you with overblown accolades, especially if their comments appear distant from reality. Those who are secretly jealous or deceitful frequently flatter others. They overcompensate not out of admiration, but due to a desire to acquire favor or affect your perception. Envious people often praise you publicly while secretly undermining you or inflating your ego to surprise you. Consider a co-worker who frequently tells you, "You're the best, no one else compares to you," while quietly undermining your accomplishments in front of others. Alternatively, consider a friend who consistently agrees with you, never challenges your viewpoints, and only conveys what you want to hear. This is hardly an indication of support. Rather, it indicates the presence of hidden objectives. Julius Caesar's demise serves as a historical illustration. He was surrounded by men who flatter him, call him a god, and openly applaud his leadership. However, many of these same men secretly detested his authority. Their lavish praise was not genuine. It was a diversion, a cover for their true aims. In the end, several of his closest allies turned against him. So, how do you distinguish between genuine appreciation and flattery? Look for depth and consistency. Genuine praise is balanced, acknowledging strengths while also providing critical feedback. A true friend will tell you when you've done something outstanding, but they will also be candid when they identify areas for growth. They will not just tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. A person who gives hollow, overblown compliments without thoughtful comments is probably not being honest. Similarly, someone who abruptly quits complimenting you when you no longer benefit them reveals that their flattery was never true to begin with. Stoic approach. Detach from both praise and criticism. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not let either praise or criticism maintain your sense of self by being true to your path and focusing on your principles. When someone praises you, ask yourself if it is real. Is the feedback meaningful or excessive? Does the person still appreciate me even if I don't reach their expectations?" Here is your next step. Respectful people will never deceive you with false praise, so be wary of excessive flattery and instead value honest challenges. Seek relationships built on honesty rather than manipulation. Inconsistency in behavior is a hallmark of envious or deceptive individuals. Genuine people keep stable words and deeds, while those with hidden objectives often vary their behavior based on circumstances. One moment they may be your biggest fan, the next they are apathetic or covertly undermining you. The Stoics emphasized the significance of consistency in character. Epictetus stated, "If a man is inconsistent, he is unreliable, and if he is unreliable, he is untrustworthy." This principle indicates that someone who frequently changes their attitude or behaviors based on convenience cannot be trusted. Consider those who are warm and welcoming when you're succeeding, but become aloof or chilly amid your challenges. Consider a colleague who, while publicly praising your ideas, remains silent or even takes credit for them. These behaviors indicate an opportunistic person lacking integrity. History offers examples of such inconsistency. In the court of King Henry VII, advisors and nobles professed loyalty when it was convenient, but turned on one another as power dynamics shifted. Many perished because their alliances were based on personal gain rather than genuine loyalty. In daily life, inconsistency manifests in subtle ways. A friend who supports you privately but dismisses you publicly, a family member whose treatment of you depends on what you can offer, or a boss who changes behavior based on the audience. These red flags reveal a lack of authenticity. To discover and address inconsistency, observe patterns throughout time. The Stoics thought that continuous deeds, rather than isolated instances, reflected one's genuine essence. Take note if someone's kindness, loyalty, or respect changes in response to external influences. Pay attention to how they act when they have nothing to gain. This will show their genuine intentions. Action. Step. Don't dismiss red flags based on occasional support. Evaluate the general pattern of conduct. If words and deeds do not line up consistently, the individual is untrustworthy. Surround yourself with people whose behavior is consistent, whose character does not change with the circumstances, and whose loyalty is based on principle rather than convenience. As Marcus Aurelius stated, "A person's worth is measured by what they do, not what they say they will do." 6. Observe their reaction to criticism. A person's response to criticism often reveals more about their character than their reaction to praise. Individuals harboring jealousy or deceit frequently react negatively to constructive feedback, as it exposes insecurities they strive to conceal. Instead of reflecting and learning, they may become defensive, dismissive, or even hostile, clear indicators of envy and falsehood. The Stoics regarded criticism, when offered with positive intent, as a tool for self-improvement. Seneca once stated, "He who fears being criticized fears the truth." A wise person welcomes feedback, understanding that growth requires humility. In contrast, an envious or dishonest individual perceives criticism as a threat to their carefully crafted image. Consider a scenario where you point out a minor mistake to a colleague. A secure, self-assured person will acknowledge it and perhaps even thank you for bringing it to their attention. However, a deceitful or jealous individual might downplay the mistake, shift the blame, or lash out. Their response isn't about the mistake itself, but reflects their inability to accept anything that makes them feel inferior compared to others. Historically, figures like Napoleon Bonaparte exemplify this behavior. Once a brilliant strategist, he became increasingly resistant to advice as his ego grew. Surrounding himself with sycophants, he ignored critics who warned about his over-reliance on conquest. This refusal to accept constructive criticism, a failure the Stoics would deem a tragic lapse in wisdom, contributed to his eventual downfall. In personal relationships, similar patterns emerge. Individuals struggling with envy often become defensive when offered well-meaning feedback, interpreting advice as an attack rather than an opportunity to improve. Instead of learning from it, they may respond with anger, denial, or passive-aggressive behavior. Actionable step: observe how people react to minor critiques. If someone cannot handle small corrections, how will they respond to more significant challenges? A first instinct to deny, deflect, or retaliate reveals a fragile ego. Conversely, accepting feedback with calmness and gratitude demonstrates resilience and wisdom. As Marcus Aurelius wisely advised, "If anyone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake or bring a better idea, I will gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." Surround yourself with those who value growth over ego, individuals who can hear the truth without resentment. 7. Subtle, unintended analogies are often used to express jealousy. Envious individuals may regularly compare your successes to those of others, even if such comparisons are inappropriate. These seemingly casual remarks might damage your confidence and expose the speaker's hidden envy. The Stoic philosophers understood that comparison is a major source of personal discontent. Epictetus suggested focusing on one's own beliefs rather than comparing oneself to others, asking, "How long will you wait before demanding the best for yourself?" This viewpoint promotes living according to personal principles, free of the distortions of jealousy. Consider a co-worker who, upon learning of your promotion, says, "That's great, but did you know Sarah got a promotion and raise?" Instead of applauding your accomplishments, such words draw focus to others, thus belittling your accomplishment. This habit reveals the individual's insecurity and incapacity to appreciate other people's accomplishments without comparison. Historically, the rivalry between artists Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci demonstrates how external comparisons can cause undue stress. Both were excellent talents, but continuous comparisons created a competitive dynamic that overshadowed their unique triumphs. To utilize Stoic wisdom in recognizing and addressing these behaviors, consider how people react to your accomplishments. Genuine supporters will celebrate without drawing needless similarities. If someone continually makes comparisons, it reveals their feelings of envy, not your merit. Action step: when confronted with unwarranted comparisons, calmly divert the emphasis. For example, say, "I'm proud of what I've accomplished and prefer not to compare myself to others." This technique boosts your confidence while quietly signaling that such comparisons are neither required nor desirable. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Maintaining clarity and rejecting the impulse to compare allows you to keep your peace of mind while also setting a standard for how you want to be treated. 8. Observing how people manage personal disappointments might reveal valuable insights about their personalities. Those who are honest and self-aware accept responsibility for their mistakes and see them as opportunities for improvement. In contrast, deceptive and envious people frequently avoid responsibility, create excuses, or adopt a victim mentality. The Stoic thinkers emphasized the significance of taking responsibility as a foundation for knowledge and self-control. Epictetus taught that our reactions to circumstances are under our control, saying, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This viewpoint emphasizes that human growth comes from admitting and learning from our mistakes. Consider the case of Napoleon Bonaparte. Despite his evident genius, his demise was characterized by an inability to accept criticism. When his empire began to fall, he blamed setbacks on external factors like the weather, his generals, or fate itself, rather than admitting his own strategic mistakes. This inability to accept responsibility reflects a mindset that is resistive to growth and self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius, also known as the philosopher king on the other hand, was always self-critical. In his book Meditations, he stated, "Don't waste your time fighting over what a good man should be. Be one." This willingness to accept mistakes and strive for personal growth creates a truly strong character. In regular situations, envious and deceptive people may manipulate their failures. They might avoid responsibility by blaming others or giving in to self-pity instead of owning up to their mistakes. Phrases such, "Of course you succeeded. You never had to deal with what I went through," or "If I had the same opportunities you had, I'd be in a better position too," frequently conceal deep-seated animosity. Rather than acknowledging their own involvement in their circumstances, they try to undermine others' accomplishments by claiming that their hardships are worse. Applying Stoic wisdom. Observe responses to setbacks. Pay attention to how others discuss their shortcomings. Do they accept responsibility, or do they shift blame? Consistent failure to accept personal responsibility is a major warning signal. Examine their learning approach. Determine whether they regard failures as learning opportunities or simply as excuses for inaction. Those who accept their mistakes are more likely to develop and achieve. Reflect on their effect on others. Be wary of people who, rather than admitting their mistakes, try to discredit your accomplishments or make you feel guilty about your success. As Seneca wisely observed, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Those who refuse to see their defects are trapped in jealousy and falsehood. It is important to surround yourself with individuals who view failure as a necessary step towards success, rather than as a final destination. 9. Evaluate how they share their success. Just as failures reveal a person's actual character, so does how they talk about their accomplishments. Honest people are anchored in their accomplishments. They accept their efforts without hyperbole or hubris. However, deceitful and envious people frequently distort reality, either exaggerating their accomplishments to make them appear more important or using them to denigrate others. This type of behavior reflects insecurity rather than confidence. The Stoics' perspective. The Stoics cautioned against seeking external validation. Marcus Aurelius stated, "Do not waste what remains of your life guessing about others, unless it is for mutual advantage. It is not your responsibility to determine the opinions of others, but rather to maintain your own mental clarity." A person who frequently brags or manipulates the truth about their accomplishment is typically compensating for deep-seated insecurities. Recognize insecure behavior. You may typically spot these people by the way they talk about their accomplishments. Some exaggerate every element, making their success appear greater than it is. They seek adoration, relying on others to confirm their worth. Others gently utilize their success to exert control, reminding others of their superiority and establishing themselves as the most important person in the room. Then there are individuals who minimize or even manufacture difficulties to make their accomplishments appear more remarkable. It isn't enough for them to achieve, they need to outperform others. History provides numerous examples of this. Consider Caligula, the infamous Roman emperor who desired to be revered as a god. Despite his reign being founded on harshness rather than intelligence, he overstated his achievements, surrounded himself with flatterers, and exterminated everyone who challenged his image. His obsession with appearing powerful led to his demise. His fantasies rendered him oblivious to reality. Compare this with Marcus Aurelius, who, despite being one of history's most powerful rulers, never attempted to elevate himself. Instead, he kept reminding himself of his mortality, the transient nature of accomplishment, and the need for humility. These patterns are ubiquitous in everyday life. A colleague who takes credit for team efforts, a friend who constantly reminds you of their success without acknowledging their privilege or luck, and an acquaintance who only shares accomplishments but never struggles, do not celebrate success. Instead, they use it to reinforce their perceived superiority. Just as they exaggerate their own triumphs, they frequently undervalue the accomplishments of others, responding to your victories with statements like, "That's fantastic, but I've done something similar before," or, "Well, that's not really a big deal in my sector. I remember doing something even more difficult than that." These remarks are intended to gently diminish your accomplishments, not to engage in genuine conversation. An envious person's purpose is not to recognize or learn from the accomplishments of others, but to preserve a false sense of superiority. Pay attention to how others describe their accomplishments. A person of strong character will accept their success with thankfulness and humility, but a deceptive or envious person will use their accomplishments to manipulate perception. Check for consistency. Do they assist others as much as they desire recognition? Are their success tales accurate, or do they seem exaggerated? When someone reveals an accomplishment, consider whether they inspire others or just themselves. Do they thank those who have helped them along the way? Do they recognize the importance of luck, time, or other elements, or do they rewrite the story to make themselves appear invincible? As Seneca wisely stated, success is not in what you have, but in what you give. Those who are sincerely confident in their achievement do not need to embellish it or overshadow others. When someone's success becomes a weapon rather than an inspiration, you can see their actual character. 10. Listen to your inner voice. Despite all of these indicators, inconsistencies, subtle comparisons, and how someone handles success and failure, there is one final test that is frequently overlooked: your own gut. The Stoics thought that wisdom comes not just from exterior observation, but also from trusting one's own inner judgment. Marcus Aurelius thought about this when he wrote, "Dig within. Within is a wellspring of goodness, which is always ready to boil up if you only dig." Trusting your intuition. How many times have you felt something was strange with someone but disregarded it? Perhaps their words did not fully reflect their intensity. Perhaps their compliments seemed strained. Perhaps despite their outward warmth, something deep inside you refused to really trust them. That isn't paranoia. It's perspective. Human intuition is powerful, influenced by experience, subtle social cues, and unconscious habits. Overcoming doubt. The problem is that we frequently suppress this inclination because of politeness or self-doubt. We convince ourselves that we are being excessively judgmental and overthinking. But more often than not, that lingering sense of disquiet indicates something real, something our reasoning mind has yet to properly describe. Recognizing contradictions. You've probably seen this happen before. A buddy says they're thrilled for you, but you sense bitterness behind their words. A colleague assures you that they are not envious, yet their behaviors contradict that. A person in your life looks to be supportive, yet you have a feeling they really want you to fail. The Stoics would advise you to trust your feelings, but not be governed by them. Epictetus's wisdom applies here. If someone speaks poorly of you, do not defend yourself against what is said, but rather consider whether they are correct. If they're wrong, it doesn't matter.